we'll see you guys on YouTube.
Book that says really change you want to see.
Yeah, I'm gonna be really sad when I'm done with this one.
Oh,
you so
just
sad.
cut it out and.
No, I came like this. Yeah, I guess I could, you know,
Stack them
use
on
it.
top of each other.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really rough on my journals because they go everywhere with me, but the girl's gotta have her security blanket, and this is mine. All right, how are we looking?
How long is the intro meeting?
14 minutes. So we got time.
Well, each loop.
Each loop? Maybe like 5, 6 seconds.
So I'll play after and
It's 4 bars, so I don't know. I do know that though. Are we live? Wait, hold on. I know.
Did we just take that breath together?
We did. I think that's a good sign.
That's a good sign, for sure. I'm ready to unravel and open up.
Yeah, I'm always ready. I try to be anyway.
You ready?
Yeah. Okay. Hey guys, how's it going? We are here today with Benjamin Bolton, owner of Plant Matters, and he is going to give us all the info on this awesome tea that he's brought in and all the other teas that he has, as well as many other things.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this conversation.
It's going to be good. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how's your day been?
Life is good. I got to visit with some friends and talk more about tea and Plant Matters and do a little shameless plug.
There it is.
Shout out to Mustang Signs for setting me up. The Brad Prescott over there.
Nice.
He's got us taken care of. Any small signage you might need in your business, you can go chat with him.
Perfect. Love that. Awesome. Okay, so tea. Let's talk tea.
Let me ask you a question first. It's something I ask everybody across the country, whether it be at the gas station or at the bank. What would you say has been the highlight of your 2017 so far?
Ooh.
It could be anything.
Oh, highlight of 2017. That's a tough one, you know?
It's a good one, though, but it's a good conversational starter, right?
It is. You know, I think that there's so much that happened in 2017. I feel like it was kind of a year of renewing, like a fresh start at points, you know what I mean? Like, it was a time frame where I was, like, in between so many different things. I mean, we had our son, and he was, you know, still a year old, and, like, as a parent, you know, you have this weird, funky stage from, like, right after you have a baby, and then, like, you have a whole year where you're kind of in, like, a fog, you know?
Yeah, okay.
And so, like, 2017 was the next year after that, and so, like, I was coming out of that fog and all that stuff,
All the change that goes along with it,
yeah, and I feel like I had a lot of cool, like, I don't like to use the word revelations, but that's how it almost felt, you know? Like, I just came to these conclusions, like, oh,
kind of
I can do that, or, like, I don't know, and I got back into, like, art and all the things, so yeah.
Yeah, I saw some of your doodles in your notebook.
Yeah, I do like to doodle. It's crazy good for stress relief.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, it is therapy, I tell you.
I agree.
Do you do any form of art?
I guess my art would be like snowboarding and activities that I can get that energy out. Like, before I came in here, I did 10 push-ups because I had to bring us in. We can do this.
Yeah.
I saw other people get nervous when they're on their first podcast, and I just want to shake those out.
You know what's weird about that is even still, like, with every single one that I do, I still get that, like, excited feeling, like, oh, like, it's like an amped up, like, oh, here we go, we're gonna do this, you know?
But when you get, like, through that that little exercise and you feel like alive again. It's like back to normal.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the highlight of 2017 for me would just be kind of coming into my own a little bit.
I can see that. I can see that while watching your podcast. And
thank you.
Enjoying some of your motivational speeches when you talk to people on Facebook Live and let them know how life really is.
With Miss Crystal, I love that girl. Love.
Yeah.
So
shout out to Crystal.
Yeah, for sure.
Had a good conversation with her one day at her office.
Did you?
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, she's just one of those people that you just are, I don't know, for me, I'm just kind of drawn to her. I'm just like, man, I just want to keep chilling with you and just talk and you know, discuss, you know, so
I think we spoke for like an hour in her office, in and out, and meeting her coworkers and stuff. And
Nice. Well, what about you? What was your highlight of 2017?
My highlight would be, in my field of work, I work as a union welder's helper.
Right.
And then I'm also able to work as a pipeline welding inspector. I come from Washington State, and so I'm about like what I consider half hippie, which you said in the bio. I appreciate that.
Right. I had to keep that in there. I was like, dude, that's like perfect.
Yeah, it's pretty clutch. The highlight for me is finding a good company to work for, because I can switch jobs as much as I want, being union. And then I found a really good one to work with in the last 8 to 10 weeks before the work season's over. And it usually ends around November. And I got to work with a good one called M-Bridge on a big pipeline project, and just good people to work for.
Yeah. My dad works for a union also, so I definitely know when things are tapering off and then they'll pick back up again.
Yeah, there's a work season for sure. What type of union work is he into?
He's sheet metal.
Sheet metal,
Yeah.
There's good money in that also.
Yep, and he does a darn good job. Yeah. He is a hard-working man, let me tell you.
We work a lot when it is work. We work 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. You just have to get it. But yeah, finally finding a good company is very important.
Nice. Awesome. So what kind of drove you in this direction then? It sounds like you got a pretty good job going.
I got a good job, fun career where I get to work during the work season, then take the time off and snowboard and enjoy life, longboard and sometimes wakeboard. I like to ride my pedal bike to the grocery store and just soak it up as much as I can. But the stuff that drove me to pretty much meeting with you is finding quality in my life, I would say. Not just organic beverages, but organic kind of a lifestyle. Not just cutting out meat and being completely type vegan or something, to just embracing organic single origin coffee and then sharing that with somebody that I care about a lot every morning. And then that just kept going, and I just left my heart open to it. Like we talked about before I walked in here, you got to have that heart chakra real like centered with you so you can receive all the things that are coming to you. That's what brought me in here today, pretty much.
Nice. So tell me about your journey with this tea and working with these herbs, and because there's so much to know. There's so many different benefits and so many different combinations.
All the information, surprisingly, has been on my phone. I've been using Google Maps from the Android G1 to travel the country for the last 10, 12 years. And I just kept going back to it every time I needed something in my mind, whether it be a grocery store or the job I was going to in other cities. And I found myself crossing paths with somebody who was a barista. And I lived with her and her husband at the house, and I saw their espresso machine. I was like, oh, I gotta have one, so I bought like the cheap version, but it still covered all of those bases that I needed for nutrients and that are in the coffee bean. And I started to read up on it. I read a book called The Universal Drive for Mind-Altering Substances, and then it talked about caffeine, it talked about the coca plant, it talked about opiates and how they used to use opiates to control animals like elephants as the original heavy equipment.
Really?
And they would get them hooked, and then they were like, all right, we need you to move something, here's your opiates, come follow us. And that's how they did that kind of stuff. So I've been inspired by coffee, that feeling that I get when I levitate a little bit, being just like elevated from that expression. And then it just continued. Like I was telling you about sharing that experience with somebody that I care about every morning. It gave us a good place to talk and chat and like recognize each other on the real and go through some of the things that we need to talk about. And so I started throwing in things like coconut flakes on top of it, because the medium chain triglycerides are really good for adding to that expression, and then it gets into your system. And then I kept going. I didn't stop there. Started drinking yerba mate with the filter straw.
Show us the straw.
The traditional straw is consumed all day long with yerba mate, which is similar to green tea. It has 23 vitamins in it, 15 amino acids, and they drink it all day long. They fill their cup full of that tea, and then they pass it around to everybody, so they all share it in the household.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. I tried it at home.
Yeah.
Loved it. Pretty much got wasted. I got yerba mate wasted.
Yeah.
I have horrible handwriting, but I just felt the urge to, like start writing things down, and it just all started kind of laying itself out. And this was a couple years ago. I was like, okay, now I'm going to drink this with coffee and see how I feel.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. On like the bell curve, you get coffee wasted, and you kind of get up there, and you're like, here I am. But if you don't, you kind of taper down, you go through these waves.
Right.
With yerba mate, you get coffee wasted, and then you stay with it for most of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can taper down with things like green tea. Set you down on that calm, because the L-theanine and that herb flickers the GABA receptors, kind of put you on that Buddhist chill.
Yeah.
And
I'm an avid coffee drinker.
Mm-hmm.
I drink a lot of coffee, probably more coffee than I should. So I am very much aware of the downfalls of that caffeine drop after you've kind of you ride it up, and then it's
a long crash sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So tell me a little bit more about what Plant Matters is and how this. So you're starting to write it all down and map it all out, and you're kind of acquiring all the knowledge. And
I started sharing the ideas in my friends and family group, and we started drinking what I would call tea-offee every morning.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
I tried to invite people over. Sometimes it would work out, sometimes it wouldn't. But when my mom and my sisters would come over, I'd set them up, or I'd even go to their house, because I was so inspired by that good feeling all the way throughout the day, and then tapering down.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept going with it, I guess. What was your question again? I kind of missed it.
Oh, no, what kind of, pulled it all together? When you decided, hey, I think I'm going to, move forward with this and, come up with
what brought it all together after a couple of years of experiencing that stuff was, knowing I can get it all wholesale, and then also change the way that we can walk into a coffee shop and not get handed a cup at 200 degrees temperature, which makes any tea bag bitter. Mm-hmm. It's kind of disturbing, actually.
Yeah, explain that a little bit further, as far as the proper preparation of tea.
So for me, I prefer it at 160 degrees temperature so that the herb doesn't get overcooked. Just like if you over-extract even coffee, the acids in that bean can upset your stomach.
Yeah.
And so if you over-extract with high heat, to any herbal, they call them tisanes, to even yerba mate, it kind of has a different feel and effect. So finding the hot straw and then finding the espresso machine version and all of it being pieced together, it's I got to do something with this, because I want to change the way that I travel the country, and I need to go get a cup of tea, and they're just handing me crap, and I'm a little disturbed by it. So if I share the knowledge the way that I'm sharing it with you, with everybody, and they make the change within themselves, and then they expect that from the coffee shops, or if I put it in the health food stores like we have it right now at the Highland Health Food Store, then they will be the ambassadors for change, and the knowledge will come through them and that smartphone like I did, and you can take a look at what you need in your system versus just having to go somewhere and let somebody tell you that you should have a couple shots of coffee and keep doing it all day long, because you don't want that roller coaster. You want to feel balanced and carry on with that baseline where you can utilize those nutrients in your body.
I love how you use the word balance, because that is what I'm so striving for in all avenues of life, not just, coffee or tea. So I guess, when was that moment that you're just okay, I'm going to move forward with this part of it? Because I've noticed just in conversation, when you talk about, Plant Matters and, talking with people, you're coming from a place of very, I want to connect with you.
Yeah.
It's not so much let's just, slap a label on it and send it out, and it is what it is. I get this huge, personable vibe from you, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, now that you say that, it resonates a little bit. It's it was just knowing that I can do something with myself and be an advocate for change. As both my parents are counselors. My mom was a drug and alcohol counselor, and my stepdad was a mental health counselor. They both went through their things. I saw that early on before they got into that life, and then they shared that with me. I remember coming home when I was 12 years old and seeing my mom just distraught because she couldn't help somebody get off of meth that was taking their kids from them. And I was just thinking to myself, if my mom was on hard drugs, that would tear me up inside. And so that sharing and that spiritual connectedness that she had every time we went to NA, or AA meetings, and at the end I would holler out with them, and everybody'd cheer like, "Yeah, keep it up," like stay clean and sober. That excitement carried on through everything that I did, and then I shared that with my friends throughout everything that I learned. Yeah. Sometimes I overshared too much, and then I had to tone it back a little bit. And then once I toned it back and found myself like at peace, then this came to me and said, "Hey, do something with this."
That's so awesome. I notice within my own life, if I just kind of step away from it for a minute, the answer will come up, or the idea will spark. I fall into this pitfall a lot where I'll have an idea and I think, I have to do this idea. I have to do this idea. And so I'm kind of learning to, like you said, just kind of settle in, and whatever presents itself, and if it feels like that's the right opportunity or the right thing to do, then it will happen.
Yeah, very much so. I learned from my psychology teacher that if you have a stressful math equation or just a thought in your head, to sleep on it. He said that there was a biology question that this scientist was working on. He studied all day, slept on it, woke up, and it just the answer was there before he could even write it out.
Really?
And then, so what I did was, I essentially got, I consumed some CBD, which is decriminalized here in Washington State.
Right.
And I fell asleep, and I woke up. Since I had all these ingredients, I was like, what am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
And so as I awoke, it came to me and it said, you need to name it and put it on the shelf. And it just so happened that my neighbor was the Highland Health Food, the owner before he moved. But so one day I had him come over and try it, and he loved it. I watched him get super active after he got off work, and he mowed his lawn, and he was playing with his kids out front, which is a rarity after a full day at work.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I knew from that experience that I needed to do something with it. So after I woke up, I'm like, what am I going to name it? And then I thought, it's plant material. That should be its name. So I typed in plant matters in my phone, and it came up as Indian matter, which is what they use to change the Tibetan monks' robes, the color red. And then Indian matter is a part of the coffee family. And I was like, okay, this all kind of works out, bada bing.
That's good.
And then I looked up plant matters, if there was anything out there to buy from Amazon or anywhere else, and there's nothing. There's just my idea. And then I took it to Mustang Signs, and we created the epic little koala on the straw with
right?
That was his talent, and I'm so grateful. As I was sitting there, he created, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is
it can be
so spiritual.
It
was good.
The process and just kind of pulling an idea together, if you have an idea and then you're trying to put it on paper, it can be so overwhelming to figure out how everything's supposed to look. And it gives you, you're talking about that sense of oh yeah, that's it, when you finally get there. I remember when I first decided to be a personal trainer, and I did all my schooling, and then I was like, okay, now what? Now I have to build this thing, right?
Where do I take this?
Yeah, and so I spent hours and hours and hours just doodling little things, trying to figure out what the logo is going to look like, what's the lettering supposed to look like, and it can be, again,
it can be overwhelming,
so
but
overwhelming.
If you have a good group to elaborate with and collaborate, or even just vent, and you get so much good energy and feedback. Kind of like when I talked with Crystal, she was telling me things that how she conducts her business and what they do in their office, and then how we can collaborate on stuff potentially,
Yeah, and she's a really good one to collaborate with, and I think that was probably one of my biggest downfalls when I first started as a trainer. I just didn't know that was a thing that you could do, to talk to other people and to bounce ideas off of other people that are actually in the training realm also, because I was so brand new, and I'm just so I feel like I have to do everything on my own,
Yeah.
So I don't know how you're feeling about that with building this.
I feel good about it. I feel like this should take off beyond just my knowledge, and I like to sit back and watch it grow on its own with my input and inspiration for other folks.
Yeah.
Kind of like if you've ever done hot yoga, and then you're in the middle of it and you're deep in it, and you're like, man, I feel like I should get up and just leave. This is too much for me.
Yeah.
And then the teacher says something like, if you're having mental blockage, just let it go.
Yeah.
And then after that, 45 minutes, and then she said that, it just I knew I could finish it. And then I finished it, and afterwards, and I hugged her, even though I was all, hot room yoga wasted.
Sweat from head to toe, yeah.
It was I just have to say thank you. You just said those things that I needed to hear, and that's kind of how I feel when you communicate. Like the other day, I was sitting here with your husband and you, and we just were jiving with ideas and why you should or why you shouldn't. And then I continued forward. It just came to me in the right way, and I got to continue adding ingredients and trying new things, because there's lots of different elements of just plant matters. It's not just for energy that's mimicking the effects of like Red Bull. The things that I really enjoy are stuff like lion's mane that we put in your drink today. Yeah. It's great on the cognition. It makes my body tingle sometimes. And then things like a good friend of mine was struggling with her eyesight and staring at a computer all day, and then we found a nutrient called lutein, and that's the game changer, because it moisturizes the eyes and it's not so hard on you. There's just certain nutrients that are out there versus having to always go to the medicine cabinet, which is something I'd like to try and stay away from personally for myself, and to see other people find themselves on the healthy side of organics.
Yeah, I'm very much like that as well. If there's an alternative to, man-made medicine, then I'd like to try that first. I'm not opposed to it, because there's a lot of good medications out there that do help people, and, sure, life-saving medications, but if we don't need it, then, why go that route? But
you gotta trust your source, know what you're taking in. A lot of people take whey protein and all kinds of mixtures of pre-workouts that just get them completely wasted. Sometimes you're overstimulated when you take in 400 milligrams of caffeine. You really only need at max like 120. And then you can balance it out with things like green tea that you can match it 2 to 1, where you can have 200 milligrams of caffeine, 200 milligrams of L-theanine to 100 milligrams of caffeine, and that's what really gets you on that good levitated feeling. Like
nice little balancing.
Skip across the ground and just feel good about it.
I'd like to feel like that every day.
I actually started feeling like that every day with things like vitamin D. Vitamin D has been a game changer for me, in the sense that when the clouds used to come over, or there would be pressure systems all throughout the country where they're different. They're clusters in the East Coast, and they're one big storm in the West Coast. I would be in the room, indoors, and I would feel something was coming. My face would get swollen and tight, and I'd be aggravated. But with vitamin D every single day, 5,000 international units, which seems like a significant amount, but it's something we need in our systems. And then pairing it with vitamin K2, they work synergistically. Just like chocolate and peanut butter make Reese's peanut butter cups. Those are delicious.
Right? Perfect combo. Yeah.
So it helps balance out that good feel.
Yeah, I think that there are so many different things that we don't have, depending on where we live. Like you're talking about with vitamin D, we don't always have access to be just out in the sun where, we can absorb all of that naturally. So it's great to have an option for that. Yeah.
A family member told me with vitamin D that in the west side of the state, we only get about 85 units, international units a day, because of that area in the summertime, and if we're outside all day. Over here in the east side of Washington State, we get about 4,800. And that's awesome, but you have to be outside all day. That's not everybody's lifestyle. So some people use happy lights when they're up in Alaska on the North Slope. I actually worked up there with a few people that had family members that just had a hard time with that, so they needed happy lights or vitamin D. And I think that it should be expressed more that the quality nutrients that you take in can balance out your happiness. You can find yourself in other avenues where you can just let it, when you're balanced on baseline, you can let things like this just come to you and feel good about life.
I had a coworker, because I used to work at a hotel, and she would work night audit, and she had one of those lights because she never saw daylight. She was always
But did she say that it worked though?
Yeah, she said that she definitely felt better, and she did start taking vitamin D as well.
Yeah, you got to supplement, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think, from what she said, the light wouldn't do it alone.
No.
But it definitely made her feel better.
And a lot of people think that they can get it in their food by drinking milk or eating food, but there's a certain amount per body type. Like your body type's going to be different than mine for how much you might need in an essential amino acid like magnesium, or all of the amino acids that we somehow need to get in our nutrition.
Yeah, there's a lot of different studies. There's so many studies out there that are saying that we take too many vitamins, or our supplement ingestion isn't appropriate, or it's all about what form it's in, and there's just so much information out there. It's so overwhelming.
Definitely overwhelming, so you got to look at it in a skeptical sense. But just like they're saying we're taking too much of a multivitamin, but it's the way you're getting it. Say you get it in a hard form, you're not going to be able to digest it properly if you don't have the right enzymes. But if you get it in a chewable form, you can get it into your enzymes in your cheeks and in your body that way. But if you just take a multivitamin and sit at a computer all day, you're not getting that out. I didn't tell you this before I came in, but I did 10 push-ups in your office out there before I got in, because I was like, I need to shake this off.
One more time.
I need to get this caffeine that I had in my day, and then... It feels good that way. So you got to utilize your nutrients.
Right. And there's also a lot of things that you can take to like help with like the stuff inside the stomach to help, you know, break everything down appropriately and distribute appropriately. There's just, I think that mainstream really misses it sometimes. They think that you could just take this little magic pill and it's all going to be okay. No, you know, this is all you need. But there's so many moving parts and there's so many different things that you have to think about. And that might mean, you know, you have to think about different vitamins. You know, you might have to think about what forms and where they come from. And they can't all just be in one little vitamin.
And I can tell you truthfully, when you walk into the Highland Health Food Store, they're super knowledgeable. Yeah. They helped me out with during the season I was having allergies. There was a guy in there who was like, well, you know, apple pectin and bromelain from apple pectin is the outer layer of the apple that's really good for like a natural antihistamine. And then you have bromelain, which is a digestive enzyme that's a part of the pineapple. And those together work really well to knock those down, and you can actually breathe and live again in a peaceful sense. And then, knowledge is power.
Agreed.
And health is wealth for sure, though.
It's funny you say that. I tell that to my girls every morning when they leave for school. Yeah. I always say knowledge is what? And they're like, power.
Seriously, though. Like, the day you stop learning is the day you start getting old.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah. So let's just keep learning. Let's just keep pushing.
Every day. What I love about podcasts and the thing that you're doing, not only being that it's local, I looked for you online and I was like, I need to find a blogger so I can connect with somebody because I'm about to take off to work, and that way I can spread the knowledge to my friends, the store. Yeah. In my personal opinion, podcasts are the ways that we get a chance to interact. Like, there's been multiple times where I'm listening to a podcast online and I'm yelling at them like, shut the fuck up, you're full of shit.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
And then with that, then when they do come correct themselves or they get corrected by the educated person that they're interviewing, it's like, oh, okay, then like they get humbled and then you get humbled, and it's like I felt like I was there with them in that conversation, and then that builds on all the aspects that we have a hard time just sitting down at a family dinner where we're all there, aunts, uncles, cousins, and brothers and all that. It just brings me back to like feeling I'm a part of something that's educational too. Yeah.
Well, I know that we definitely share a favorite podcaster. Yeah. That Joe Rogan. He is definitely one of my favorites. So which ones were your favorite episodes?
I started out with showing everybody personally the one with Sue Akins. Mm-hmm. Sue Akins lived on the North Slope. I've worked in the North Slope area, but she lived out there year long. It's only a 2-hour podcast. And it's only because 2 hours is great for entry level, however long we're going to talk. And then she talks about things like when you're on the North Slope, she knows what those animals want from her. Mm-hmm. You know, if she's going to act like a pork chop, she's going to get treated like one. But if she acts like she knows what she's doing and she's, you know, controlling of herself, then she's going to survive in that atmosphere. Yeah. So that, and then she talks about nutrients. She talks about if your body's craving iron and sugar, it's going to go back to the ways that it used to get it before. So you want to go to whatever you had last, whether it was a soda or a steak, you know. So
right. You know, that's the thing about his podcast is you can find just about everything on there. Mm-hmm. Like, if you just want to sit back and chill and laugh, you pick up one where he's sitting down with another comedian, or like Joey Diaz. He is one of my favorites. He's an amazing storyteller. Like,
have you ever seen that show, This Isn't Happening on Comedy Central?
Yes.
They tell stories.
Yes.
Joey Diaz has a bunch of good ones. My favorite one, dang it, I forget the comedian's name, but there's a bunch of good ones on there.
Yeah, there was one, and again, his name is escaping me, but like he's a super germaphobe, and he's talking about the pole that was up there on the stage. Did you see that one?
I'm not sure. Was he a comedian?
Yeah.
Was it Jim Brewer?
Maybe.
Because Jim Brewer was the one that was talking. Well, he might have been on there a couple of times though.
Maybe.
But there's some filthy ones, but some like really awesome ones.
He's like, they didn't even wipe down this pole. I can see stuff. I was like, dude.
Vulgar but good though.
Yeah, totally.
It's real though, because like hearing Joey D's stories on Joe Rogan's podcast, and you can connect with him because you can relate to the ways that he saw his life when he grew up in the East Coast and in the inner city, and then he's come out from it. You know, like where I grew up with my family, who sat down and said, "How are you feeling today, son?" And I was like, "Mom, I'm 12. What do you want from my feelings today?" You know, so you walk away from that, but you utilize it in your day that it shows up, and you can add value back to somebody's life.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. So there's another guy on there. His name was Paul.
It's Paul Stamets.
Stamets, yes. So he talks about mushrooms and like the networking and everything. Did you watch this one?
Yeah,
or listen to this one?
Mm-hmm.
So, for those of you that haven't seen it or listened to it, you should definitely go and listen to this one because this guy knows his stuff. Like he can tell you, and he talks about how basically mushrooms are the lifeline to everything. Like
what I heard in a TED Talk was there was a girl talking about when she dies, she wants to wear a mycelium suit, which is the original internet. That's how the tree roots talk to each other. And Paul Stamets had a California Integral Institute of Sciences talk is where I heard his first, like, it's like a confessional. Mm-hmm. How he took in mushrooms in his form that worked tremendously well for him.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful podcast. It gives me chills even thinking about it because the things in lion's mane and the studies that he's doing, and even though the government sometimes scrutinizes him and he's in the spotlight, he's completely transparent because he wants to just let people utilize it for themselves. There's a mushroom called turkey tail. I have some in my fridge right now, just making it periodically. It feels really like strong, like vitality comes through me every time I go work out after I've taken some turkey tail or chaga mushroom or cordyceps.
No, I didn't even think about like pre and post workout, like what would be best for that.
What I find is what's best for what the body can do with it naturally. You know, rest is good, nutrients are good, post workout, pre workout. But with this, the knowledge needs to be there per person because let's say you take a vasodilator with a large portion of mushroom, it's going to interact. The mushroom's trying to add to where it needs to be to balance that flow throughout your system. So you got to be careful.
Yeah. So test it before you go hit the gym.
Yeah. Small doses like this one they say with taking hard drugs. You know. Yeah. Create the set and setting, and then micro dosing in a sense so that your body knows how it feels.
Yeah. When
shaman are using things like ayahuasca to get that DMT experience, it's prolonged throughout that time, but they do it in a fasted state so that their body's more receptive. Like when you're super hungry, you know exactly how an egg tastes. Phenomenal. But with that, you need to know why there's L-carnitine in that egg that feeds your brain that nutrient so you can go to school and feel, I got this homework, you know?
Yeah.
Bring the questions at me, teacher.
Yeah, totally. Speaking of ayahuasca, I was listening to another TED Talks about a gentleman who described his experience, and I can't remember exactly where he said he was, but like he walked everybody through like just the ceremonial part of it was amazing. He's like, so we all were in the space and we were quiet and we had to actually change our clothes, like there's a formal like dress for it. And he was talking about like how everybody has their little puke bucket because after you ingest it, I think he said it was like an hour or something, maybe purging, longer, then they do the purge thing. Man. And I'm just like, whoa, and how intense it was and how he wanted it to be over, like the experience to be over, but just like he knew he had to reason with himself, like this experience is, I'm going to be here for a minute, but then it's going to get better, you know?
The profound experience that you're talking about I can relate to with things like sleep paralysis, where you're asleep and you feel the weight of the dark.
You've experienced that?
Multiple times, but the thing of it is, it started
that's so terrifying. I'd be like, oh my God.
My personality type is I've had near-death experiences, so I understand what it feels like when you're drowning and somebody pulls you out of the water. You know, shout out to Eric Durano. Thank you for saving my life at 3 years old. I've had my head go through a windshield in a car at 16 years old when my buddy had got his license after 3 days. You just have those moments where you're like, okay, I'm fine if I just let it be. Yeah. After I had my head went through the windshield, I had my favorite Hawaiian kid shirt on, and I was probably 275 pounds at 5'10". That's not very healthy. Yeah. And they cut your shirt to get to your chest. It was like my favorite shirt. Like you had that moment of like, oh, okay.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
So you get a lot of like reality checks. It's a matter of you picking them up. And so what you're going back to sleep paralysis.
Terrifying.
I've heard about it from somebody I was dating. It's super terrifying. Okay. I heard about it from somebody I was dating that was from the Mayan descent, and her family said things to her when she was a kid to not sleep with her hands crossed like that because that is how the dead sleep, and so they'd pull her hands away and stuff like that. And she said she had sleep paralysis during puberty, and dating her, falling asleep. It happened to me one night, and I was like, oh my goodness, and I tried to yell, I tried to scream, I couldn't do anything. It just felt like this dark weight and these two eyes looking right at me. And then I said to whatever it was in my own head, I said, when you're done, because I tried to scream and yell and get up, and I said, when you're done, you know, it's all good. Do what you need to do, but when you're done, it'll be over.
Yeah.
And once I said that, it lifted. And then I woke up and I was like, hey, that happened. That's real. She's like, yeah,
crazy.
Yeah,
Well,
happens.
see, I was doing some research on dreams. I don't know, I'm really fascinated by dreams and the dreaming state and everything. Mm-hmm. But I came across that and read into it, and I was just like, that is crazy, because I see it sometimes in my dreams. Like, I'll be screaming in my dream, but nothing comes out, and like I'm trying to wake myself up. Yeah, like I'm just stuck there forever, and like I feel like it's taking me forever to wake myself up. And then I came across sleep paralysis, and I'm like, I'm okay with where I'm at. Like, I'll deal with that.
I don't wish that upon anybody, but if you do experience it, just tell yourself and that thing that you're telling without yelling at it. Like, when you're done, it'll all go away.
Yeah.
I've also lived in a house that was legitimately haunted when I worked on a pipeline job in Southern Oregon.
Really?
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
What I recognized while being in that house that was fully furnished, I just needed to have the closet doors open because that's what it wanted, in a sense. And that was that spiritual connection that I had with being haunted. She didn't tell us when we moved in, but after I asked her about it, why there was nails pulling up and down the staircase every night, like heavy, she showed me pictures of the orbs that would fly around. And she said to just don't argue with them, let them go about their day. They just share space with you. And you kind of just have to embrace that energy. It's just like when you see a dog meet somebody that they're not going to let pet them, but then they let somebody else pet them. They know the difference, you know.
Right. Yeah, that'd be how long did you live in this house?
For like 6 weeks.
Not long enough?
Yeah, long enough. And then the day that I left, I went into the other room that was like way more, like had more things going on in it. I just knew that it was. I walked into the room, and then out of the corner of the room, I felt this thing kind of go out I just felt it, and my whole body got chills, and I was like, okay, this is a good day to go home.
Yeah, about, right?
But they didn't mess with me too much. One thing I know for sure that I have a good friend of mine that can validate this is I was watching the LA Lakers win the championship that year on TV, and for some reason, while I was sitting there, 2 streams of water would come out of my eyes and fall down on my face. It wasn't like I was crying.
Yeah.
I was just watching the sports game, and I was like, I couldn't even do this. I just had to let them fall.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so weird. And it happened multiple times. And I told my friend about this, and he's like, prove it, make a video. And so I turned the phone around and made a little video, posted it on YouTube, and he's like, oh man, that's trippy.
What?
After I made that video and I shared it with him, I was like, I had to delete it. It wasn't that I wanted to delete it. I should have like kept it for, proof, but for some reason I had to delete it afterwards.
But I think that there's something to be said about that, because, again, listening to other people's experiences through podcasts and YouTube videos and stuff, like, there are people out there that make a very hard line, people who experience, supernatural type things. They'll notice that they'll make a very hard line between when they work with positive energy and negative energy. And they are like, no, on that negative energy, So you, like when you said I had to delete it, not necessarily saying that it was negative energy, but there was something telling you, they're just like, I'm not going to play that game. I'm not going to, agitate anything.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're...
Exactly. It's a part of that sleep paralysis or even the DMT experience that they talk about when you're in that state of like, you let go completely.
Yeah.
And you just like embrace what's going on around you. Then you kind of fall into place where you should versus... you don't want to fight the force because then it doesn't go your way if you're always trying to push too much on everything.
Yeah. And that's kind of what that gentleman had been talking about when he was describing his experience. As soon as he, like, just relinquished that control, like, he was talking about how he experienced moments from his childhood that gave him, like, an outsider's perspective.
Yeah.
Like, he could just...
Out of body.
Yeah, but it was like he wasn't attached to anything. Like, he wasn't feeling the emotions that he would necessarily feel, like, if it were him experiencing it. Like, he was able to get, like, an outsider's all-encompassing perspective on several different things in his childhood. And I was just like, that would be a trip. Could you imagine looking at something that happened in your childhood? Maybe it was, like, super heavy to you, and then you just get to watch it without that?
I believe you get glimpses of that throughout the day. For myself, when I forget to have that connection with the universe, I get a seatbelt ticket or I stub my toe. But the things that you can pick up on are the ones where you're like in those yoga classes and you have that like moment where she says you're having mental blockage just to let it go. And then that middle of the class, I can remember where I was at, and I had that like looking down at myself like, I got this. I have everything I need to finish this. And when I did, I felt great.
Yeah. And the universe is very good at giving us those reminders, I think. If we're paying attention
if you
enough.
can receive it, you know, if you're not you're not too high on your toxic load where you're smothered with all this other stuff going on around us, whether it be your phone or sometimes your family can try and stress you out a lot. It's just find that connection every day.
So what do you think that was the biggest thing that you've noticed as far as like trying to maintain that connection? Because I've been trying to really pinpoint, obviously it's a daily thing now almost. It's kind of like a snowball effect. Like when you first kind of get that, okay, I feel connected feeling, and then you just wanted a little bit more, and then you want a little bit more. And I would check in like, you know, weekly, you know, how am I doing? What things can I change? And now it's like daily, sometimes hourly. I'm like, I need to rethink and look at all this.
Yeah, you have. Well, it's the ways that you go about doing it. You can't be stagnant in yourself. So you might do an arm workout every day and only build that one part of yourself, when the rest of yourself needs that attention also.
Yeah, you should really not skip leg day.
Truthfully, you know, your whole body needs all of it.
Yeah.
So with things like fasting, something I've gotten into is.
Ooh, tell me about how you do this.
When
So I'm really
personally, for my body type, I've always been heavier and had a hard time with sugar. So that was my addiction. I'd walk through the checkout line at Safeway, and I felt like I had to buy the Reese's peanut butter cup right there. And it was like, I was addicted every time. And so I read up on it for about 6 months. I read one book from men called Engineering the Alpha, which says stay away from things like soy because it kind of flickers our estrogen levels that can throw us off a little bit. Say we're eating too much seafood and sushi with that soy, then it makes us kind of respond differently. Read about certain nutrients. I didn't really follow this program because I'm not fasting to, you know, get jacked and shredded. I'm fasting so that I can enjoy crappy foods and feel at one with the nutrients that I'm putting in my body. And like we're talking about the lion's mane, I believe that if you are in a fasted state for your own self, whether it be for that 1 minute, where you dedicate that 1 minute to the universe because you're already blessed with what you have, you fast and let that go somewhere else, where you let yourself not have to eat that breakfast and you can let somebody else enjoy that. You were able to receive all the nutrients and then utilize them efficiently in your day. That's what I found it for me. I do a thing called Lean Gains. I read up on it for 6 months, and then it just was like, okay, it's time to start. 16 hours of not eating, basically just skip breakfast. After 8 o'clock at night, I don't eat. And then around noon, I start my meal. But what I caught in the learning curve was, if I eat a whole pizza from Pizza Hut, I'm going to feel like garbage. Did that one time. I was working at Elevation in Casper, Wyoming, and I would turn my neck to the side, and it just like, I got the spins because the tension in here somewhere, I don't know, maybe Crystal can tell us more about it, but the energy was thrown off, and I was like, what in the world do I got to do to fix this? I'm fasted. I just ate a whole pizza. That was the worst thing to do. It was overloaded. And I went down to the fridge and I opened it. I saw a super fresh handful of kale. I was like, oh, kale, you know. Ate it raw. And then it got that one down and was like, oh my goodness, that all went away. Started to feel good again. I was like, let's get the rest of that out. So I ate another handful, and then I was like, okay, that's what it is. At the end of my fast, I have to eat greens, nutrients, and feed myself instead of just putting something in there.
Yeah. Instead of just empty calories.
Man, it's important.
You know, it's crazy. I naturally gravitate towards whole foods, I find. And I don't know if it's just because of the way I was raised or, you know, just my body, because I'm hypoglycemic, so I have to pay attention to my sugars, so I've always been kind of, like, conscious of that.
Very much so.
Man almighty, like, if I could just sit down with, like, a table of whole foods, like, fresh fruits and vegetables, I'm just like, I am set. Like, I don't know.
It's a good feeling. It's definitely a good feeling to open your fridge and know that what you're going to put in is just as good as the multivitamins that you're chewing on.
Right. Not to say that I don't like a good slice of pizza.
That's where
because I do.
That's where, when I'm fasted, I'm able to have those cheat meals and not feel like shit the next day. It doesn't affect me as much because during that fasted state, you're also letting the toxins break down and get out your system.
Yeah.
I was able to become sugar sensitive instead of sugar resistant. I was able to kick my drug habit of chocolate and peanut butter with things like dark chocolate that's above 70%, and then using sprouted almonds that I got at the Highland Health Food Store. And it was awesome. The first time I ever found sprouted almonds, it was just happened to be Nathan, and I didn't know him that well, and I was going to get to know him years later, but he was like, oh man, these sprouted almonds, you got them fresh. This is going to actually ruin you for all the other almonds.
Oh, no.
And I opened one up, and I was like, there's a little green guy in there, and he goes, yeah, it's good for you. And I ate it, and it was soft and delicious, and I was hooked ever since. So dark chocolate and sprouted almonds are amazing.
Really? Yeah, I like almonds, just regular almonds. So I'm assuming that would be the next step. Is like the next level of almond.
Yeah, it's interesting what's out there from that standpoint.
Yeah, and I think that's also kind of a sad tone almost, because you look at our grocery stores and advertising and nutrients that are being advertised to us, and I feel like there are so many things that we're just missing as a society.
That's another part to the plant matters that I don't want to incorporate any trickery. The things that I'm interested in are like emojis that are the new hieroglyphics, so that when you look at this and you're like, what the heck's in here? You know, you have to research it to understand why you're taking it in, versus when you get a chocolate bar, it has like ingredients in there just to like catch your eye. It's healthy for you, it's dark chocolate, but you don't really actually see all the sugar alcohols or the other crap that's in there to throw you off. But I want to stay to the basic of it so that you know that it's nutrient dense versus they're trying to jump out of you organic, like when you read on the labels. Or I'm not trying to be that way. I want to like come in where I can embrace it versus shoving it down somebody's throat.
Right. Yeah. I had a big learning curve when my daughter started having digestive issues, and like I was like really honing in on her diet, you know, like just trying to fuel her with the appropriate foods so that way we can rule out any kind of food sensitivities, or, you know, just her system being bogged down, like super clean eating. And like I had always known that there's a bunch of crap in food. I've always known that. But like I never had to sit there and read the label as intently as I did in those moments, you know? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this ingredients label is like a list this long, and it's teeny tiny print. Like there's so much in here that we should not have in our bodies.
I completely agree. I can say thank you to my stepdad during the time we were growing up as kids, where I had a cereal bowl habit where I'd eat 2 bowls of cereal every time I sat down. Yeah. That's where I gained most of my weight, and he said that we were not allowed to buy cereal that had sugar as the ingredient in the first 5 ingredients. And I was like, I was mad at the time, but then again, I was like,
you got 2 options of cereal. No, if that.
It was slim, but I'm thankful for that we got to go through those emotions of making your own powdered milk, because I used to drink too much milk. That experience of making your own powdered milk and having to drink it warm was like, I'm going to figure this out at some point, and I'm going to buy my own milk, and I'm going to overindulge. And once I got past overindulging in my 20s, I'm at a point where I'm 30-something, 34 now, and I'm feeling good about it.
Yeah, I think we all hit that time in life where we're like, you can't tell me what to do. I'm going to eat those pizza pockets all day. And
some people can get away with it, though. I'm not mad at them. You know, that doesn't work for my body type. Enjoy yourself, but even
the people that look like they can get away with it, they're still run down. Like,
it's some aspects. It gets to the brain. It gets to the gut. Like you're saying, the gut digestion is a game changer. When you figure that out, everything clears up and your body can run smoothly, and it's a beautiful thing.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I've been really looking at very, very closely in my own like journey, as far as like taking the next step, because I've been really honing in on, you know, meditation and journaling and documenting and all of these different things. And now, like right now, I'm doing 30 days of fitness. And like, I mean, I know all the benefits of fitness being a personal trainer, but I guess this journey was a little bit different for me.
It sounds like you're connecting in like
it's
a
kind
deeper
of,
way.
Yeah, it's like a mind-body, like 30 days of fitness. Like, I don't know, like I'm adding all of that back in, you know, because I used to hyper-focus on just the body itself. Like, it was like a machine to me. Like, I knew what to feed it, and I knew how to work it, and I knew and I knew exactly what I needed to do to get results. Like, it wasn't about, you know, trying to figure out how to get results. That like, I knew how to get lean. I knew all of those things, but, like, my mind was just like,
sometimes we leave that part out all throughout our day, and we're just driving, and all of a sudden you run a red light, and then something can happen, or you run that yellow and you get a ticket. So when you're conscious with your mind and your body, it's a beautiful thing. Also, like your soul, when you let your soul talk, also it has a lot to say. So I'm sure you're embracing that too while you're in the 30 days of fitness and sharing with people on Facebook Live. Is like, and then it reflects in your children, and it reflects in your relationships and your
yeah. And you know what the funny thing about that is, you know, I'm sure you've noticed after talking with my husband, he loves to talk. He is a chatty Cathy, and I love him for it. Yeah. And it's so funny because, like, he's just like, who are you sometimes? Because, like, I just keep going, and I just keep talking, and he's like, oh, okay. It's like, there you are.
It's good to watch you guys bounce off each other and share and listen to each other. That was one of my biggest deviants growing up as a kid. Having counselors as parents, is they did the talking for me. And so when I projected onto my friends that way, I did the same thing that my parents did to me onto them. And then I had to fine-tune that. And once I fine-tuned it and actually listened, it changes the way that you see the world, for sure.
Yeah. That's a whole nother ball game, though. Raising kids. Holy cow. Like, we all have to admit to ourselves as parents that we're going to do something that's going to, affect them down the line somewhere. And I think that that's just one more component to all of this. And like I was saying, like, that next step being focusing on, again, I know what to do, and I know what nutrients to put in my body, and I know all those things, but I think it's the crazy thing about this is you came to me at a time where I was kind of like trying to figure out, how am I going to look at my nutrition differently? How am I going to like add certain things into it that are going to give me the desired effects that I want, that are much better for my body, And so when you messaged me, I was like, huh.
Really? Right now?
Okay, let's see what this is about. Right. Like, it was like the perfect time. So I have to say thank you for that.
I can also say thank you to the ways that I've learned from, I had Indian folks as my roommates, Red Dot, not the Feather, as my folks who I lived with in Albany, New York, and they taught me something. I had a job interview while I was out there, and I got frustrated in the job interview because the owner didn't even look at my resume. And I said, you know what, you didn't look at my resume, have a nice day. And I walked out, and my roommate was like, Ben, you just passed up an opportunity. You could have, worked with them on that, and then you might have had that later in your life where you might have needed it or utilized it. And they are taught a different way of being, in a sense. So with the study of Ayurveda, to be a yogi master, you have to be a study of Ayurveda, which is like a medicine system that refers back to utilizing proper plants for nutrition, and then things like special herbs that just help calm you down. Or there's a plant that's called calamus root that helps remove the psychoactive effect from cannabis. I've experienced those things, and so like I'm grateful for that kid telling me that one time, like, look, you're fucking up.
Rewind.
Listen sometimes,
Yeah.
And so
I think that's when the ego steps in sometimes.
Yeah, bigger. Yeah, that's. There's a higher power in ourselves sometimes where it's the ego, and my ego has definitely been fed entirely too much shit, and I'm working on fasting from that person that I was before. I let that person go personally in a place where I was able to burn that experience. I went to Burning Man in 2016 for there's a Leonardo da Vinci kind of event, and I learned a lot about myself. The universe was showing me that it was my turn to go and to experience that. And the way that I knew that was that the universe was talking to me directly was that in between going to school, I had the time off. I had the financial there, which is rare, which it's an expensive trip. And then I saw an ad on Craigslist where an artist said, I need help setting up. He said that I'll give you a half-price ticket. I called him up, and he said, let's do this. And we packed up his stuff. We used my pickup truck, and I drug his art project out there. He did a shamanic portal, and he burnt sage and kind of rubbed it all over us and kind of smudged us from that while after he set it up. And I got to take all of my aggressions I was working on and put it in a capsule and then let it burn with the temple that they had built that year, which had so many emotions and powerful things attached to it already. I saw a physical wood coffin hung up on the temple with a wedding dress inside. And I was like, somebody had some power when they let that burn. And then like army boots that had somebody's dog tags on it. I was like, oh man, that's deep, right? And then just letting that go. And then one of the things that brought me to Burning Man is you're supposed to bring a gift,
right?
And my gift was asking that same question I asked you, like, what's the highlight of your 2017? So I took a little notebook and I had actual highlighters from school, and I was like, here we go. Went off to Burning Man, rode my little beach cruiser that I got from Walmart, and I'd stop and I'd ask people, like, hey, I got something for you, and hand them a highlighter, and like, what's the highlight of your life? And I'm over here like a scientist, but I'm journaling down these little quotes, and then, the person named Cinnamon was their nickname, and I went with a guy named Rock. But you get these like nicknames because nobody cares. You're out there for a few weeks or for a week, and then you take off, and then it's like you never meet each other again. And
right.
some of the things that I heard from the person like Cinnamon was saying that the job that she started at YouTube and then how that took off and she got the opportunity to go to Burning Man was her highlight. And then another guy right outside of the temple said to me that the passing of his mother was the highlight of his life, because having that experience and being at Burning Man, all of the things that are supposed to happen, it showed him that he needed to live a little bit more and not be so stagnant and being focused on what he was focused on before. So like we got emotional with each other. His two friends were there, we hugged, and like I felt like I spiritually connected with him in a way that I can never do anywhere else.
Yeah.
Besides allowing myself to have that openness and utilize my skills and gifts. And so I got to do some great things in life, and I'm going to continue forward with that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I ask a lot of people this, but did you find it intimidating to kind of move forward into that openness and just kind of that vulnerable space?
Yes and no. I would say no on the side that I have a theory, like a 3-day theory. Sometimes I've been called the wild card. When we're in public, I make an ass of myself. I'm good at it. But 3 days from now, nobody's going to give a flying fuck what I just did.
Yeah.
Because they're only worried about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's the part that's no, but the part that's yes is the part of when I'm vulnerable and I allow myself to express the things that most men are not given, the opportunity to express your sexuality and yourself, what you believe in, and sharing that and being vulnerable and being like subject to criticism sometimes hurts. And so when you are a lot, like when you get through that stuff, you grow so much more. So I believe I answered your question kind of right.
Yeah, sure. But I think that is definitely the common consensus on that, is when we're in that vulnerable space and we're working on growing and learning, like that is the place to be. And I find myself chasing it sometimes and then running away from it sometimes. It's like a little love-hate relationship I play with this.
I completely agree. There's a book that I read called An Introvert Living in an Extrovert World. And it talks about, like you're saying.
I've heard of it, but I haven't read it.
Loved it.
Yeah.
It was exactly what I can relate to. Like, I'm super outgoing. Like, let's do some shit. Let's have some fun.
Yeah.
But then there's some days where I just hide out. Like, I won't even respond sometimes in text messages because I'm in my own head so much at that time. And I need that centered peace within myself that I can't go anywhere mentally beyond myself. And finding that balance has been like a game changer in my life for sure.
Yeah.
And I hope to be able to express that in the things that I'm able to do in the in the herbs, to the drinks, to like just my presence. And I'm sure that's where you're at, where you're trying to be with your physical fitness and sharing that with your family and interacting with your conversations that turn out pretty good.
For sure. It's trying. I mean, I think that for me personally, if I find myself in those places of like, I can go within myself very easy.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like you said, you don't, respond to those messages or phone calls or all of those things. And I'm totally honest with my family now about it. I'm like, yep, sorry. I'm just...
Yeah, like, I'm working on something here, sorry guys, yeah.
Yeah, but I noticed that if I let myself stay there too long,
exactly,
it's easy to be there. Like, I'm just like, no.
I completely agree.
You just step outside of this a little bit, And that's a great thing about coming here and talking to people and doing this podcast, is it keeps me in that space.
It keeps you in that, like, the setup to get here and set this all up. You're getting yourself prepared. When I'm sunk in my mind too much and I'm sitting in my room, I do things like go out and go check the mail on my longboard. So I kick push to that thing, turn the key, all right, get this day started, then my mind starts going. It's like, oh, what else do I need at the grocery store? And so I jump in my car, go with the stuff at the grocery store. Like, I start improving from where I was stuck. But sometimes being stuck is nice to turn all of that off, and be quiet in yourself for a little bit.
Yeah, because it can be kind of draining sometimes to be so, like, open and, putting yourself out there. You have to, reboot a little bit.
Definitely.
I remember, and this, I think it's still, like, a huge, like, back and forth for me even. Like, I think 3 days ago, like, I had that sense of, okay, I'm too inside myself, and, like, the only thing I could do is think, okay, I'm going to get up, and I'm just going to get in the shower. I'm going to start with a shower. Then, okay, I'm going to make a pot of coffee. All right, I've done that. Like, all these little things to, like, kind of coax myself back out again. Yeah. It's amazing. Like you're saying, just get on your longboard, go to the mailbox.
Some of the best conversations I ever had with my family have been from just walking with them.
Yeah.
Side by side. It's just getting the blood flow going, being open with yourself as much as you can at that time. Sometimes you're reserved because of whatever else is going on in your own universe, and then their universe is clashing with yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, just get that day started, whether it be 10 push-ups before you come in and do the podcast,
Right.
get that energy out.
Right.
Yeah, you got to get to it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, again, going back to that, just really focused on physical fitness right now, it's been a huge blessing. And this is the weird thing about these 30-day things that I've been doing is they've come at the appropriate time. Like, I haven't really forced them, and I've noticed, like, the more open I am, the less I have to force them. Yeah. Like, I really needed that time, that stint to really figure out, how to align myself and how to open my mind a little bit. Actually, going back to the very first one I did, 'cause I did one without social media. 30 days, no social media. It was crazy. Like, I felt like I was so cut off from the world, but I needed it so bad. Like,
did you find yourself reconnecting to yourself after 30 days? You're like,
I refresh.
Yeah.
And then moving into the meditation, like, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, there's levels to this shit.
Right, exactly. Like, kind of, I've got this really bad thing where, like, I don't know if it's bad, but it's a thing. Where, like, I can't just be okay with this. Like, I want to go, like, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next one? Yeah, and it gets me in trouble a lot of the time.
Fair enough, yeah.
But I'm getting better at that. And then now just reconnecting it all with the body again, I'm just like, holy cow. Like,
I can definitely relate. During that time frame of, like, you're talking about, you need to cut back on your social media. A few years ago, I knew that I needed to at least try to make it a full year without Facebook.
Did you do it?
I made it a good solid 6 months, and then I gave it myself a little bit of a leeway, and then I made it another 6 months, and it has completely changed my outlook on my own social media aspects of things I was doing too much of throughout the day.
Yeah.
Now I reap the benefits of it. During that time, I believe I was working on giving up biting my fingernails.
Yeah.
Like, I used to eat these things to the core until they bleed for 26 years of my life. Nervous anxiety, everything. And then with the help of the person that I was in love with and am in love with, during that time, she helped me. She was there for me and let me do that. Let me go through those motions and encouraged me. And then, just setting that aside, I used to fidget a lot where I do move quite a bit now in my own personality because I'm super excited to be here, but I fidgeted way more and fixed my shirt a whole bunch. But the ashwagandha from Ayurveda set that all aside, and I was able to just here I am now. And I was present.
It's such a crazy feeling to be able to calm the body. Like, I'm still with you. Like, I still have those moments of, that you need that, physical, like, energy release.
Very much so.
It used to be so bad when I was a kid. Like, I used to have like silly putty or Play-Doh or something. Otherwise I couldn't focus in class.
Childhood,
yeah, and half the time I would get rid of that and start doodling on the margins, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm supposed to be paying attention, like, but yeah, it's just, and that's,
you got to turn those into your profit in a sense. So I fidgeted so much, but I was so observant in the way things sat, so I was able to transition that into weld inspection, because everything that you touch is like you wrote your name on it. So if I turned a valve or I twisted a piece of 2-inch pipe, and then somebody comes in behind me and does something with it, that could potentially kill them if it's not in the right form.
Yeah.
Or if I didn't know that somebody else had touched it and then I came to it. So a part of my anxiety is getting fine-tuned and honed. Like, I'm profiting from it very well.
Nice.
As where I'd like to turn an observation that can work synergistically from my observation and pipeline experience to what I see is we're getting handed trash at the local coffee stores because they're not taking in the knowledge to what it is. They have all this knowledge on coffee beans and how they extract, and the caffeine is a plant that drops caffeine plant material on the ground to kill other plants around them, so that and even the caffeine that the bugs are eating off of them are killing them, so that they stay strong and the vitality is transferring over into us. Not only that, we want to add those things to tea. Tea is the number 2 drank beverage in the world to water. But in America, it's not.
Yeah.
It's thrown off. So that's where some of my overthinking gets set down in its place, and then it comes out and it shows up in things like this.
Yeah.
And I can greatly appreciate it now.
Yeah. That's awesome that you've been able to do that. I still struggle with my anxiety. I'm there. I'm getting there.
You can get there. You can get there. You can own it, and then you can embrace it. Is what I'm getting at. So like when you find your yin and your yang to that, it turns into things like you're doing right now. You're getting that energy out, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I can feel it from you. I just feel it that this is, you are so solid in this and this like product, and I don't want to say the product, but process more so. I think it's all about the process for you, because like you're just, well, you know, look at how we're getting it in, you know, our coffee shops,
forms, or we're boiling it in water at our own homes, and we might be making it too bitter too. Even coffee is preferred sometimes at 160 to 212. It just depends on the blends and all that good stuff. So the knowledge is power, and I greatly like. I can't express that more than I already have today. I probably said that probably 10 times, and it's like, let's do this, people. Get with me on this.
Yes, you know, and that's all it's gonna take is just a little bit of research, just a little bit. You know, just if we could all just look at something just a little bit deeper, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, so. Don't force it. For sure.
Yeah, and I think that goes into everything in life, though.
Yeah.
Is just, like we were talking about earlier, just step back.
You know how you were saying, like, step back, get out of your mind a little bit, have, like, almost out-of-body experience? We can go back to talking about Paul Stamets and his profound experience, that he took psilocybin mushrooms, magic mushrooms, that he hates the term, but it's what it is in our minds until we change it, just like the way that weed is the terminology for cannabis, or marijuana or marijuana is the derogatory term that the government made to make the Hispanics look bad. It's just cannabis. It's quality, if you can look at it. So he tripped out on psilocybin mushrooms, and he was in the middle of an East Coast storm where it was spotty, and you can see the thunder and the lightning, and he crawled to the top of this tree, and he's a stutterer by nature, which is crazy to think about for that mind. He mentioned in his podcast another point to that, but after he had that profound experience, he's like, if I survive this storm and this mushroom trip and I climb down, I'm going to make a conscious effort to not stutter anymore. And he climbed down and he did something where he challenged himself. He learned that, he challenged himself, and he approached the girl that he had a hard time not stuttering around. He said, hey, you have a nice day. And that's when he knew it started. It was super simple. Man, Paul Stamets is pretty awesome.
Seriously, everybody should go look him up and look at everything that he's doing, because he's so multifaceted. Like, he knows so much about so many things. And I think that, you know, and this is a hard one, because obviously a lot of these substances are not legal, and there's a lot of, like, misinformation
is flooded.
And, you know, it's like villainized, you know, and you're looking at these people's experiences, and a lot of people would be like, yeah, I did the ayahuasca experience, but I only did it once, because I only needed to do it once.
Some people,
you know, because it's more so about the journey rather than just like,
you just said a magic word right there.
Yeah, just tripping out.
It's not about the trip, it's about the journey. I had a slightly profound experience outside of a church one day. I was kind of deep in my feelings and my own sorrow, and I was with somebody that was special to me, and I walked out of the church, and they were getting in their car, and I was about to get in mine, and I looked out at the bumper sticker, and it said, it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about your relationship with Christ. But I interpreted that as my spiritual connection with the universe. So I was thinking to myself, it's not about me, it's about my connection with the universe. And then it just like it lifted, and I felt like a little bit more motivated to feel good about life, and it all came to me in that way. And I think you can share that and relate in different ways. And I see it in your podcast when you have like Caitlin on or Lindsay, and they have their own interpretations of what they've seen. And like the big bad world out there where I think it was Lindsay was saying that the Bronx, when she's pulling her suitcase. And
I totally expected her to be like, it was terrifying.
Oh my God, there's people everywhere playing basketball at night. Like, no, they were just, she said it, they were just people like you and I. And I was like, I felt the same way. I worked at the LaGuardia Airport Project in Queens, New York. They were just like, Ben, where are you from? I'm like, Washington. They're like, no. Like, what part of the country? You have brown skin. I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about it. I'm in New York where everybody's from a different continent or whatever. And I was like, oh, well, I'm Hispanic. You know, I'm half Hispanic and I'm half white. So fortunately, we got along great, you know.
That's good.
They didn't bust my balls too much, but it was good.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, well, I think that there are just so many things that we overlook when we meet new people in different places and different experiences, and our expectations of things are 9 times out of 10 way different than how they actually turn out being. And if you look at it, we're all connected, and we're all very, very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar. So, well, Ben, thank you so much for coming and chatting with me. And where can we find all of this goodness?
It's still in early stages, so right now on Facebook, Plant Matters. My name is Benjamin Allen Bolton. I'm an Aquarius. I went to Kamaikan High School. I like longboarding, wakeboarding, and snowboarding. It's kind of like a little pitch or whatever, but you can find me on Facebook, message me. I can set you up with some stuff if you need it. It's at the Highland Health Food Store in Kennewick, and working on getting outside of that, like Andy's Market in Walla Walla. Nice. Once they finish their remodel, they're going to take up a setup, and then same thing with Badger Canyon Urban Tea Company. My prayers go out to Linda Utley because she's battling something right now, but when she gets that figured out and remodels the store, and we're going to communicate, and we're going to coordinate something that's going to be special for her store. What I'm going to do is do things like I did for you, where your straw is a rose gold and mine's a gold color, but I made you a lavender ginger coconut drink. I want to be able to do that for every individual that's interested. As where I made the yerba mate cacao nibs coconut flakes for Nathan at his Highland Health Food Store. I don't want to be a one-trick pony in a sense, where I can do things like marshmallow root with hibiscus is high. Marshmallow root's moisturizing for the body, and hibiscus is high in vitamin C with a little bit of sugar to add some like Kool-Aid effect to it, so it's delicious. And then I don't want to be just stagnant in a sense like we were talking about. I want to take this to anybody's realm that they want to embrace it, and let them consume it at the right temperature.
I think that is so cool, and I commend you for being you and putting this out there, and just keep furthering those connections and being so personable with this, because I can definitely feel it.
It's in the air, right?
It's awesome. So
I can feel it coming in the air.
Well, thank you.
I had a good time. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you all so much for listening. If you would like to help support Unraveling with Rayne, go to patreon.com/unravelingwithrayne. When you become a patron, you receive bonus content such as behind-the-scenes footage, along with other special content that you won't be able to find anywhere else. Music for Unraveling with Rayne was provided by Barefoot Randy. Studio space was provided by Moody Logic.